Hey, here we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Paula Parton, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's really hard to talk to you and not be admitting people into the room, but it's not my business, so I won't be doing that. Thanks for having me. Not tech savvy, so my iPhone will ring and you'll hear it on the computer. It's a hot mess, but I'll just shut it down as fast as I can. Warning. I want to say that I've been sober since October 29th, 1979. I took my first drink when I was 14 years old, and I took what I didn't know would be my last drink just 3 years later when I was 17 years old. And I'm going to start this super short talk on the 11th step today with, believe it or not, a even shorter little reading from Bill's story. I'm going to set the scene, though you all know the scene and the history. Bill had tried plenty of times to get sober. He just couldn't do it, man. His life was falling apart. His wife was falling apart. His hope had fallen apart. The doctor who was trying to treat him had run out of options. Everybody had run out of options, and Bill got a phone call from his old friend, Ebby. And Ebby had told him that he was sober now, and okay, but still Bill was excited. His old friend was coming, and Bill could drink at least and go over those fun old days. And so here's the scene. Here's what happened. Bill wrote, "The door opened, and he stood there, fresh-skinned and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What had happened?" Now, if Bill could go back and take the S at the beginning of the word something and capitalize it, he would be able to answer his own question about what had happened. Now, I came to my first meeting not that long after my first drink at 14 years old. I was court mandated. That's how fast I got into trouble. I was court mandated to go to AA meetings, and I hated you even before I got to you because my mom was in AA. Oh my God. And everybody loved my mom. And I would treat her horribly, man, because of the stuff that went down after the dash of her own drinking. You guys know how that rolls. It doesn't make me an alcoholic. I'm just saying that was how it went. And she was telling all you guys in the meetings how I was treating her, and it was not pretty. And so I went down the basement steps of that tiny little weird meeting in the middle of Nebraska. Oh my God, it's a state if you didn't know. I don't know why it's a state, but apparently they decided they didn't know what else to do with it, so they made it one. Sorry if you're from there. You would drink too, I'm just saying. But I'll never forget it. I went down those basement stairs, when you think you're all tough and 14 with fake leather and stuff. I was ready for the fight because those people were going to be coming for me, man. And I wasn't all the way sober ever in all those court mandated meetings, but I remember that meeting. And I hit the bottom of the stairs and I scanned around for the enemy. And the grand poobah of AA was in that meeting, and he was leaned over talking to somebody. I knew that guy particularly was going to be coming for me, and I'll never forget it. He turned his head and he saw me and he smiled. And he stood up and he put out his hand and he crossed that entire room to greet me. Like I was a person. And for 3 years of having to go to those meetings until I finally got sober at 17, I don't remember a word that was said, but I remembered how they had made me feel. Something with a capital S happened in those 15 seconds of inexplicable kindness. He had zero reason to show me kindness. And yet he did. And I never forgot it. It stayed with me because that too is the language of the heart. And why do I tell you this weird things? Why do I say these things to you? I'm supposed to be talking about the 11th step. Because God is love. God is kindness. And many times, man, we don't know what else to do. Be nice. That's spiritual. Make a space right there. There is a sacred space between each step. And people are watching. I was one of those weirdos in the back of the room, man. And I promise you this. You think us weirdos in the back of the room aren't paying attention. Opposite is true. We are hyper-focused. Us new weirdos in the back with our weird clothes and gossiping about all you guys. Making a ruckus in the meetings, wearing clothes that don't belong on a stripper pole. That was me and all my compadres in the back. But what we were focused on is how you acted when that meeting ended, how you lived what you were saying. That's what the 11th step can do. We all talk about the bedevilments on page 52. The 11th step, the 10th step. Sorry, I don't know how to talk about the 11th step without talking about the 10th step. I mean, you guys don't really know how to do it either. Just come on, admit it. And I don't know how to talk about the 10th step without talking about the 4th step. I don't know how to talk about that without the 3rd and 2nd, right? And remember when I said, when I took what I didn't know would be my last drink when I was 17 years old, I've never met anybody who knew when they took their last drink that it would be their last drink. What the heck is that, man? 1 minute. We are reaching for that thing we don't know is our last drink. But man, if we've gotten to that point, there is a part of us, even though denial is full set on, when we're reaching for that one, we have already burned down anything on the way to that one. And there is even a part of us, even though denial is a great master and alcoholism is screaming to take us over, man, if we are reaching for that one that then will become our last one, we know the doom it will bring. And yet we reach it, we drink it, and then 1 minute later, no one in this meeting has taken another drink as long as we have been alive. What happened? Something. I hated God. I hated God, or felt I had proof there could not be a God. Don't tell me the things that happened to me and there could be a God. Don't tell me when I was a little girl and beg God, make it stop, man. Come on, come on. And it did not. That there could be a God that you people talk about. But God, you were so nice. And I kicked every tire here I could. I looked under every bed I could, man. I pushed every lemon I could, and you were kind anyway. You found a place for me, at your banquet. Why do I show up? Because I'll never be done paying back my debt. I just had to speak in Salem, Oregon, and I hadn't slept for 40 hours because I just landed from New Zealand. So what? There's no I don't remember reading a requirement. You have to get a good 8 hours before you step up to a podium. Don't remember that requirement. And I got to say, I think I was funnier than normal. I think I was. It just matters if I think so, I guess. All right. After 40 hours, anything you say is you're going to think you're pretty clever. I don't know what they thought, but anyway. I don't know, man. I got to come to you and be rewired, refamilied, refoundationed. You were my first higher power. Of course you were. You were the first goodness I had ever seen. Of course I'm going to come all the way in for that. I've never seen such a thing. You left a mark on me. It's our sacred duty to do such a thing. And I couldn't read the big book when I was new. It was for you old people. Oh my God. I was going to write my own version for cool young people. Never got around to it. I was too busy trying to find a man with teeth. It's in Iowa. That was not easy. Sorry if you're from Iowa, but I would hear you, man. I'd hear you people. You were so kind and you were so honorable. Not one guy tried to pick up on me. None of that was happening. And so I would hear you in the meetings where you would say these words deep inside every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. I'd hear you say that and I think, oh, but not for me. But because You had been so honorable. I could at least believe that you believed. And that was enough. God and AA will meet you where you're at, take you by the hand, and lead you on the broad highway. Hardly anything's required. Just say maybe. You're there. That's what my first step was. That's what my second step was. Maybe. And for me, that was a great undertaking, just to be able to say those words. Maybe. But my 11th step journey, my 3rd step journey, my 10th step journey, long and arduous, many psychic changes. And I think, sometimes I think that the real value of having time and sobriety, whether that's 1 year, that's time, 30 years, that's time, 40 years, whatever time it is that we now have proof that this too shall pass. That's it. We have proof of hope. We just don't say, just have faith. We have proof of it. That's all. So you can believe that we believe because we've walked through it, and we will help you walk through it too. It's our sacred honor. I'm so glad you read the St. Francis prayer. I'm walking through in my sober family a big change, and I'm not a big lover of changes, and when my about a year and a half ago, when my oldest son tried to get sober the first time, it was within a couple of days of when my sponsor's husband died, when Polly's husband Dave died, and we drove there like bats out of hell to try to get there before Dave died, and we didn't make it, and but we got to Jacksonville, and the day he died, and I'll never forget it. I had promised Polly many times to take her to Italy. That was her life's dream, and she'd had to put it off 3 times. 3 times I had a whole trip planned for her, and she had to, put it off because Dave's health was just going down over the 7 years she cared for him. And the day he died, she turned to me. She said, "Looks like I'm going to Italy." I said, "Looks like you are." So 1 year ago, right now, this day, right now, I had that sweet lady in Italy and living her dream, man. I got to take her sweet little hand and walk her through the ancient streets of Rome and Florence. And how I felt was like perfectly qualified. I don't even know the word. Like all the travels I'd done, all the times I'd gotten lost in those cities, so many times. All the times I didn't know, yeah, I'll go to that museum again. Yeah, I'll go to that church again. To take her sweet little self with her sweet little smile. And she took some of Dave's ashes, and we decided to take them to the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi. And it's a beautiful place. And it should be a place of pilgrimage for us, just as Akron is, just as Stepping Stones is. It's so important to our history, and Alcoholics Anonymous as well. And we were looking for just the right place to put some of his ashes, and where she decided to put them is in this beautiful, huge potted plant they have there. It's huge. It's got to be so old. And I thought that was perfect because that plant's so big that it gives off oxygen, just like Dave did, And it will be there for so many years to come. And I have a picture of her. I took a picture of her spreading Dave's ashes around there. And it's just, there's light around there. And it was just perfect, for her to be doing that in such a place. And we just don't know, man, the point of our journey. And it's always going to be service. It's just always going to be service. And I remember, when I told you, I hated God. I remember the night when I was a little girl begging God for help. And to my little girl self, when God didn't come through, I thought, there's no God. And my first words the next morning when I'd beg God to make it stop and I had to stop was, I hate you. But now I know a new reality. I know this to be the truth, that my God did not abandon me, that my God was with me that night and every night, that my God was not saying, I am throwing you away. You are not important. I created you for a joke. No, my higher power was crying too. And my God was saying to me, hold on, daughter. I am sending Alcoholics Anonymous. There, you will be relieved of care, boredom, and worry. There, you will be rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence. And yes, you have. And yes, he did. Again, I will never be done paying back my debt to you. How could I ever be done? If I hadn't not had that family, if I had had a whole family or a family to return back to or something better than this, I would not have clung to you. And the night, in this work, in this meditative work, when we learn how to be still and know, or be still and not know, you know how when painful things happen, or of things that you have done, or things that have happened to you, and your phrase is this, if only it hadn't happened, if only that hadn't happened, if only I hadn't done that thing. With this work, you can change. You can change the past. Here's how it works. When I needed to forgive my mother, I needed to forgive my mother. And I came to the work and the gift of the 11th step that required more of that deepness to find more forgiveness for her. When I woke her up the first night, those men she let in came in her drunkenness, because alcohol was a higher power for her, just like it was for us. And I woke her up to help me. And what she said instead is, just don't tell anyone. I put myself in her shoes. Now, my mother, by that night, had been beaten and raped by my father for 17 years. I'm the product of one of those rapes. And I know that when she told him that she was pregnant with me, he told her to abort me. And she said no to that man and paid a terrible price. So when I woke her up from a drunk at 8 years old to get her to help me, and she did not help me, it's because she did not have it in her to help me. She had already saved me once. She did not have it in her to help me again. Helping me was going to have to come from God and Alcoholics Anonymous. And that night that I begged God for help, it was only 6 years later that I went down the steps of that meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that man, for no reason, showed me kindness straight from God. When I married my first husband, and he began to push me into walls, and I thought I couldn't tell my friends in AA. I was so embarrassed. I called my mother because I didn't know what to do. And I started telling her the things he was doing, and she began to finish my sentences for me. And that's when I knew I had to leave him and take my little boys away from all that. So she did save me. It was decades later, but she did save me. She died with 20 years of sobriety. When she was 3 years sober and I was 1 year sober, she stopped going to AA meetings. People talked too long. People didn't put enough money in the basket. That one guy was always talking about his same problems. That guy who managed the AA clubhouse is always annoying. You know, the list goes on, whatever the reason is. So I also got to see what it's like to have no alcohol and no God. And she saved me yet again because I have always stuck to Alcoholics Anonymous because I never wanted to live like that. She was a beautiful example of that. But through many years of my sobriety, I did that thing was if she would only say she's sorry, I could get over it. If she'd only admit it happened, I could get over it. And she never did. She died at 20, like I said, she had 20 years of sobriety, of not drinking, and never made amends. So I had to find freedom with no apology. And did, because this makes it possible. So what happened is my mother didn't throw me away. My mother didn't neglect me. My mother didn't abuse me. I woke up a woman who was desperate for one night of drinking. Haven't we all been desperate for one night? My God. She was alone, broken after 17 years, poor, abandoned, holding on to the secret with 5 hungry children. Plus, I guarantee you give me 10 more years of hard drinking, I'd have done the same, and worse. And then it was this. When she was diagnosed with cancer, I am the one of her 5 children who bought the house with the bedroom and hired the nurse. I got ready. She died too soon. Got ready to hire the nurse. Because AA made me clean and clear. I changed the past because I went into meditation for years and applied every step, every beauty of God. We are the people. We cannot survive without connection and light. We are constantly seeking the light. We have to have it. We are not one of the species that lives in the darkest part of the ocean. We're not one of them. We're not one of the species that like somehow procreates and goes off a solo species. We're not that species. I know some of us try awfully hard, but we're just not hardwired that way. We have to have connection. We cannot have walls. The walls will kill us. And if we stay behind the wall long enough by not letting the sunlight and the disinfectant of the sunlight come in, we'll make it about it's somebody else's fault. The wall is unable to come down. Meditation and prayer allows me the pause. And the pause is everything. Now, Ollie knows full well a few weeks ago I did not do that. Sorry again, my brother. Let's hope I don't mess that up again. But so, so far from perfect. I have outside issues. I'm going to share them in case it helps somebody. I won't hang on there long because AA is not about that. I have an anxiety disorder I have tics to this day. I'm 62 years old. 45 years sober, fake blonde hair, green eyes, and tics. There you go. All the same importance, all the same. And I have, I don't even like using this word. I have a form of a depression, and I don't even like using that word. But they come, they go. I don't control them. My medical diagnosis of my anxiety disorder, you're not even going to believe. The answer for my anxiety disorder is meditation. Of all the things I could have gotten, I got anxiety disorder that meditation is it. Medically, meditation is the answer for. Now, let me tell you this. I meditate in the morning and I pray in the morning, and it allows me the pause. And what happens is I know that it's medical and spiritual and emotional because if I don't do those things, I have 3 hours. If I don't do them and I leave the house, at that point, if I don't pray and meditate, driving and line standing are competitive sports. And it's a real problem. And I used to say it's about 3 hours. It's exactly 3 hours, as a matter of fact. So prayer and meditation are key. And I can feel it. I can feel it rising up too. Now there's a speaker who judges me when I say that. Not that I noticed, but I'm just saying, sorry. I know I'm supposed to have, this great psychic change that'll last me a day without meditation. Not me. Sorry. I'm on the daily. I've tested those waters too many times, man. I'm on the daily. That's how I roll. Um, I'm just going to say a few more things. Through many 4 steps, when I was clean and clear of the men, I was clean and clear of my mom, clean and clear of, the darkness, all those things. Something that kept showing up in my first column were the bystanders. I would write the question around there was, why didn't anyone help us? I mean, it was obvious, because I worked forever. My last job forever was in elementary schools helping little kiddos who were in the wrong kind of place. And my job was to help them out of that place and through that place and find them safety and safe people. And so I didn't have a resentment against it. It was just, I wanted to clear it up, And so after a few 4 steps, I just wanted to put a check on it at the 4th column, somehow find some peace to it. What I realized is this, you know what? I don't know why. I don't know why anybody didn't help us. Here's what I know. Because I learned here we have sober feet. It's in the action where changes happen. So here's what I know, that I will never be a bystander. That's where my spiritual awakening, the verb awakening, will happen. That there will not be a child in my peripheral or any part of my viewpoint that will be in harm's way that I will not step forward and help. Now, I'm not saying you should do this. I don't want to be sued someday if somebody gets hurt. I have been in some precarious situations, facing down some terrifyingly angry, huge men. And I'm terrified too, and I don't care. My path to freedom was that I decided I would not be a bystander, that there would not be another child in my world anyway that would grow up and say, why didn't anyone help us? And that was the path to freedom that I found. I had a sponsee once in a hole when I lived on the East Coast, and she had 3 little girls, and she came in into the program, and she had been in a treatment center first, and she had a little fling in treatment, and then she got out, and she asked me to sponsor her, and she felt awful about that fling she'd had in treatment. And a couple years down the road, her husband, the marriage was over. And some then years down that, she was engaged to this other guy, and she found out that this other guy had been messing around on her. And she called and told me. I said, he did what? How could he do that to you? I'm like furious for her, because she's so sweet and I love her so much. I said, how can he do that to you? You are perfect. And she says to me, I did the same thing. I said, it is not the same thing. And she said, yes, it is. And I thought to myself, yes, it is. And what's the difference in my reaction? Toward like her, I'm like, oh no, honey, it's okay. And him, I'm ready to kill. And what I realized was the only difference is love. And so from that moment, I learned that lesson. For anybody in anything, I look at it and I think, how would I act if I loved them? How would I think if I loved them? And then do that. What would God have me do? Love. What would God have me act as if? Kindness. What would God have me be? Nice. I can do those things. And if something requires courage and some kind of, words, some kind of something, it doesn't mean it has to be said right now. And it certainly doesn't mean it has to be said by me. God created time. God created love. God's going to have to be in charge of all those things. And in prayer and meditation, I can continue to listen for the pause and the words. When I'm in meditation, where I don't know where you guys feel, I feel God coming in from the left side. It's always, I don't know why, from the left side. And I tilt my face to feel it even more. And I can actually feel warmth from that side. I remember once, a long time ago, when I lived on the East Coast, I went through oh my God, horrible. I hit a spiritual bottom. I was 9 or 10 years sober. And I, coming out of that, I was a completely different woman. I went through a huge spiritual rearrangement, and I was talking to this preacher once who I worked in that kind of a nonprofit at the time, and he said, he was talking about the Catholic Church for some, I can't remember why, not in a bad way, just talking about it. He said, man, if I believed like they believed, like that the host becomes their God, he said, I would crawl on my knees to receive it. And I thought about that with like meetings, like how sometimes I'll come in late in the nick of time, or, like hurry and sit down, or, like be annoyed that they started late or whatever. And I think, man, this is manna, man. This is our oasis in the desert. What am I doing coming in late? What am I doing coming in judgmental? What am I doing coming out? Like, I should be crawling on my knees to receive it, man. Like I want to be new every day, Prayer and meditation allow me to be shoulder to shoulder. That's how I want to be, man. What would God have me be? Alive with you, shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart. That's how we roll. That's how I need to roll. There's a reason I know that when those little kids that I would help, when I would say those words to them, I'm so glad I found you. There's a reason that that's the point at which they would really relax and they would be mine. And us too, man. Haven't we each ached to hear those words? I'm so glad I found you. C.S. Lewis said it best when he said that God is never more pleased when when we stand upon a mountaintop from which every trace of him seems to have vanished, ask why we have been forsaken, and still obey. There are many times I just still obey. And the most important thing I can say to you is this: that I know you hear speakers. I used to do it too. Easily till I was 20 years sober, I'd hear some great speaker at a conference and they'd be giving some, really great talk. I'm not dissing them in no way. Great talk for their hour that they get. And I think, I'm never going to make it. There was something wrong with me. They are great. I'm not like that. Look how I show up for duty. I'm a frontline soldier. That's all I am. I'm not a lieutenant. I'm not a captain. I don't even make big decisions. I show up for duty. What's my duty assignment today? I'm a good frontline soldier. I can get to the wounded fast, get back in line. But let me say, when I say here I am, God says the same thing. God says here I am. But when I say here I am, sometimes I say here I am, and sometimes I say, but I'm still here. So it doesn't matter if you are happy or trudging or skipping or crawling or standing still, or if the best you can do is lie on the floor and be sober. You are still of service. You are still necessary. You can still save lives. You are still wanted. We are still so glad that we found you. I had a sponsee once who was broken, and she said to me something so sad, and I said something to her I've never said before. I've never said it since. It sounds so arrogant. I don't know where it came from, but she said, who will have me? I said, I will have you, and God will have you, and Alcoholics Anonymous will have you. And pay attention, because in this broken place, you will help others with this very same brokenness. I'm going to end in a minute. I'm sorry to say, and I am sorry to say, that when I was 18 years sober, in the same month I lost my mother, I lost a baby that I wanted very much. And I was hemorrhaging, and the ER nurse was trying to talk me into coming in to get a transfusion, and I knew that bleeding out wasn't a bad way to go. But I was a member of a home group, and they were not going to be having any of that. So they came into my home without my permission and talked me into going to a meeting. And I went into that meeting, and there was a young man there who was visiting, and he raised his hand when we asked our visitors, and he said, hey, I'm in town, and I've just lost my mother, and I don't know how I'm going to stay sober without my mother. I said, I got you. Because that's the God math that we do here. We do this work clean and clear. And I know all the things that I have said, if you not have yet stepped your toe, come on, man, hear the song. If you can't hear the song, dance anyway. We got you. Just say maybe, and take it as a present from him. Thank you.
Sunny, come on up, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sunny, and I am most definitely an alcoholic. And thank you so much, Paula, for that incredible share. And you spoke about you have to do in the morning before those 3 hours, before you go out and do. I do too, but what could you share with us? What right at this moment, I know it changes all the time, but right at this moment in time, what does that look like for you in the morning? What do you do?
So I choose a spiritual reading. Usually it's more than one, but I choose a spiritual reading, whatever spiritual is for you at that moment. So for me, it's at the moment, it's something that's not AA. Sometimes it is something for me right now. It's something that's not AA, but I read it slowly and intently. So because I'm ready. I'm listening, feeling for the words God wants for me that day. And when they hit, I stop and I set my timer, and then I meditate on those words. And it's never more than 5 words because I don't have the brain power to remember.
Hey, that's a great tip. Okay, wonderful. And how long altogether do you do
I've
does
been
it usually happen?
anywhere from 9 minutes to 22 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Wonderful. I love you so much. Thank you.
You're muted, Allie.
That's why I didn't get a response. Thank you. Andrew, come on up, please.
Thank you, Faustine. Thank you. Paula P., you struck me deeply on many chords. But most of all, you struck me when you said it all occurs on the left side of the head. I've got experience with that, and I just thought I was a weirdo. Anyway, thank you very much. And you mentioned the way you said, just love anyway. Go do the thing that I didn't do. Do you know how many times I wasn't there for people? And I'm very ashamed of that. I couldn't help. I couldn't be there. I was so caught up in my own concerns. That struck me as well. But I want to thank you deeply, because what you just mentioned there about love them anyway versus, there's something called resist not evil, which means don't give it breath. Do the opposite. And you just shared that very powerfully tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Darcy, would you come on up?
I'm Darcy, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Paula. I really have no words. I'm a nurse, and I often had to, in my practice, report children. And I did. And I'd lose that job. But I did it anyway. And that was before I became an alcoholic and drinking alcoholically. So it really hits me hard when I hear someone share from Alcoholics Anonymous what I've seen and witnessed in homes. And I can only be grateful that I had the courage or the whatever to do what was right. But I just wanted, I wanted to thank God that I met you. I don't know if I have a question, except for that I believe that, I don't know where you got your courage from, but I think it's a gift, and I'm really grateful for it. And I guess I could ask you a question like, where did you get your courage from to do the right thing and love anyway, despite everything?
I don't know. I kind of feel like that I just didn't have a choice. All my choices were gone. No more options. Really ran out of. I tried everything else. That's what it is. Tried it all. Love was the last choice.
Beautiful. Thank you, Darcy, for coming up. Regina R., would you come on up, please? You have to unmute yourself. I'll try again. There you go. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Regina, and I am an alcoholic. And I am full. I identified so much through the share, and just thank you. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for bringing the speaker today. And I'm really vibrating inside because a lot of what was shared is what I've been talking about in this walk in therapy today. And a lot of what was shared in the speaker share is some of what has come up in my, I'm doing another fourth step. And it's almost like she was repeating some of the same things that have been repeated in therapy and as I have been doing this fourth step. And I think I was speaking with my sponsor earlier today, and the whole thing about love, that was my therapist. I said to her that love is taking care of me. Love is always taking care of me. And I wasn't able to describe it any other way except for it's love. Um, yeah, because there's a lot that's coming up in my life right now that I am having to, I thought I had dealt with, but it's so layered. I'm having another opportunity to revisit it in a way that I wasn't before with my first fourth step. I did my very best, but I've been here for a while, um, and um, I have had an opportunity to wake up in ways that I can see these things from as a different person, not that person who came in and did her first fourth step. It was relative, it was important, but I'm looking at it through different eyes now. And just the share today, just like I said, I am vibrating inside and I'm very grateful to be here and I appreciate the share. So thanks for calling on this.
Thank you, Regina. We have just a couple of minutes left. I'd like to give the floor to Paula to see if there's any parting words that's on your heart to close us out with.
I just, if you have done something you feel is so dark, or if something has been done to you you feel is so dark, it is the work in these steps that can transform that thing into saving someone else's life. Jump in. That's all I wanted to say.